Well, hello there. How are you doing today? This is Susan Hamilton. I'm your host of Offbeat Business TV and the Offbeat Business Show on OBBM Radio Dallas. Today, I'm talking with George Hendley about speaking for your business and about some of the important things that you might want to master if you're really going to make a difference in this space. Because, friends, we represent you.
You're listening to the Offbeat Business Show, rebuilding American business influence locally, nationally, and abroad, bringing you experienced insight for a strong, influential brand and successful life in business. Here's your host, Susan Hamilton.
We represent the authentic voice of American business, and if you look at that right, that means 80% of American micro to small business tend to be family-owned businesses of 9 employees or less. That means we're building our business while we're raising our kids, taking care of our parents. We probably have a veteran or active duty in our family or workspace, and over 30% of us have an addict in our family or workspace. And those are the ones that are probably doing time. We've got a lot more here in Dallas County. It could probably be 50%. Friends, these are significant challenges in today's small business, and a lot of times those challenges will bring you down, take away your confidence, take away your train of thought. And really can be very discouraging, and we got to lift it up, guys, because it's time to rebuild American business influence locally, nationally, and abroad. American business feeds the world. It's time to really step into this space in a stronger way. When you speak for your business, oh, friends, you can get that done. Thank you, George Hendley, for being here with me today.
My pleasure,
Good
Susan.
to see you.
Always good to be with you.
So I love the name of your organization, the Speakers Academy, because it really has several layers of depth that people can understand.
It does. Speakers Academy was born in my mind just over 6 years ago. I was out in the community speaking, and one of the things I recognized very simply was this: there is always a need to help people with their communication skills. Now, I quite frankly believe that the foundation of all communication is listening. But I know in most people's minds, they don't see that as something that's truly going to help them further their professional career or even their interest in other people. So bottom line, I'm here to help them connect with other people. And that's what great speaking skills do. They allow us to connect and build what I call the CPR. Connect with power with recognition. CPR is breathing life into your organization as well as into you.
That is. Oh, it so is. And we need that because a lot of times when you're looking at the small family business sector, they might get sales training, but chances are they don't, like the corporate structures do. And what you end up having is they're reporting to Aunt Sue or Uncle Bob, and I know that because I've been Aunt Sue. And those, and it's a little bit different, isn't it? Accountability is different, but so is encouragement, so is inspiration, and so is really staying on course.
Sure.
And speaking solves all those problems.
Sure. Well, bottom line, we can get ourselves in trouble if we don't know how to speak well, but we can also neglect or miss incredible opportunities with, again, just a lack of knowledge or ignorance in many cases. So just because we know how to put a sentence or two together does not mean that we know how to speak in such a way that we can truly inspire and influence our audiences. Now, I talk about what I call the 4 N's. They are inform, influence, inspire, and entertain. And all messages basically are wrapped up in those 4 N's in one way or another. But in today's world, since we're just flooded, we're drowning in information. I don't talk too much about informing other people simply because informing comes from them or comes at them 1,000 miles an hour from a lot of different sources. So I talk about how do we move people? And we move people by inspiring them and influencing them in a non-manipulative way.
That's powerful. That's powerful. Someone told me a couple of weeks ago, George, this is interesting, that manipulation, when you look at the word manipulation, what it really means is skilled, highly skilled approach, right? But our interpretation
That's
of what
correct.
that means, it really does matter. We don't want to be deceitfully manipulating anyone.
That's correct.
We want to make sure that our authentic self and our authentic heart for the people that we are trying to speak with, that is actually what gets through.
That's exactly right. Yeah. In today's world, people hear so many messages from a lot of different sources, And they want to make sure that the sources of their information and the sources of the people who are influencing them can be trusted. I was speaking just a moment ago about the old phrase, know you, like you, trust you. And in today's world, people are more skeptical than ever. I remember honestly 25 years ago when I began my business, it was easy, for the most part, to get out in front of lots of different audiences and deliver what I called the freebie, the rubber chicken circuit type of presentation.
Rubber chicken circuit.
Yeah, where it was going from this place to this place to this
Yeah.
place, and a lunch or dinner was included, and you had 20 to 30 minutes to share your stuff. But bottom line, people are more skeptical than ever, Susan, because those messages are just flooding in their direction through social media, through a lot of different resources, and people are holding back and waiting to see. It's astounding for me to see that it takes oftentimes at least 4 or 5 or 6 exposures to a person from a credible source or resource for them to feel like he or she is someone I can trust and begin to get closer with.
I think you're absolutely right. We are inundated with messages. We're inundated with negative messages, with divisive messages.
Absolutely.
And a lot of garbage out there that really has, the interest lies somewhere else. And the only way that you can handle all that darkness is with light, as you well know. You gotta
Couldn't
be
say it any
able,
better.
we gotta be able to shed some light on these things, but they're not going to be heard with this inundated circumstance of information. Like you said, it comes
right.
at you like machine gun bullets.
You're right.
It's out there like crazy. How are you going to stand against it? And if you don't, there's a real danger here, because there's something worse than not making Friday's payroll, folks. You could lose your influence. Then what? And we're dangerously close to that point right now as American business owners. It's very important to be able to speak well, speak to that positive light, and remove ourselves from conversations that are really getting nowhere.
Yeah.
And put ourselves, well, the blue ocean, isn't it? Right? There's a blue ocean and a red ocean. If you haven't read Blue Ocean Strategy, I strongly advise you to do that. You've got to level yourself up into a different situation, because if you're playing with all of this, you're not going to get anywhere.
You're right, you're right. You know, in today's world, things move so fast, and sometimes it means we just have to slow the pace down. And in talking to people about the basic delivery skills that I mentioned, using the pause helps people go, is he alive? Is she still there? Because we're so used to information and sound coming our way. But a pause can bring people back and cause them to lean in. Have you ever seen the old motion pictures where the kids were gathered around the radio? And you literally see them leaning in towards the radio.
That's true.
And people today will lean in towards you to hear your message if you're not just bam, 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 trying to pepper them with all kinds of great stuff, and making your message just a little bit more profound and using some of these basic skills that we teach. They work.
They really do.
They really do.
They really do. I appreciate some of the basic things that I've learned from you already.
Thank you.
When it comes to holding yourself in front of the audience. It's interesting because we can get a set of nerves, can't we? How many of you have tried to speak in front of people and you have been very uncomfortable and you end up doing this nervous fidgeting?
Right.
Certainly guilty of that. Certainly guilty of that.
Yeah, just yesterday I was working with a brand new client, and she said to me in her new role with this new company that she's in the process of developing as the COO, she said, I want to appear that I'm calm, cool, and collected. And I said, in other words, you want to really be able to show whoever you're speaking to that you're confident. She says, exactly. And it's not until we can really show that we can handle ourselves under pressure that people begin to see, okay, this guy knows how to handle the pressure. He's not going to melt when the heat gets turned on.
That's important.
Yeah, no kidding.
Because the heat's going to turn on.
Because the heat is going to turn on.
The heat's coming up.
The heat's going to turn on sooner or later, and typically it's sooner than later. Yeah, absolutely.
So you've been doing the Speakers Academy courses for 6 years?
Yes. Actually, I was coaching and doing some speaker training before then, but I really used this as a method to revitalize my business. Remember the slump of 08, 09, and 10? And I recognized at that point in time, things needed to change in my business. I'd had really great years in 5, 6, and 7. And I was on top of the world. I thought, man, I could do no wrong. Duh.
Surprise.
Duh. Surprise. And as '08 hit, I began to think, something's not quite right. And off in the horizon, I see the smoke. And by the end of '08 and early '09, I'm going, something's definitely not right. And I had to literally rethink who I was and what I was doing in the business world so that I could offer something that was always going to be needed. And as the economy began to pick back up, I would have the opportunity to ride the wave. And right now, I feel like that's really beginning to happen for me.
Oh, it is, and especially with what we're dealing with, and I hate to use this phrase as negatively as I can, but our millennials, the communication skills actually between generations is probably the better way to say that.
You're right.
Because we all struggle in this area with communication. And it's interesting how you have got some really great approaches for larger companies to help them understand how to engage their younger people and professionalize them, get with the skills that they need to get their point across.
Yeah. In today's world, we tend to be microwave oriented, meaning quick, quick, quick. And I know, and you know, you never learn an important skill, especially a skill like speaking, very quickly. Think in terms of how long does it take a small infant to get to the point where they're able to communicate their needs in a simple and understandable way, typically at least 3 to 4 years. Well, bottom line, there's a lot of day in and day out training goes for that child learning how to communicate their needs. As people grow up, they tend to rely on old habits. And sometimes those old habits might be good. Other times those habits are not so good. So they miss out on incredible opportunities that are just waiting for them until they really polish the skills and tweak and polish them to the point where they are able to, again, stand up under the pressure and bring a message that does inspire and influence others.
Couldn't be more important and more timely. Friends, are you enjoying George Hendley as much as I am? Listen, we're going to hear from a few of our sponsors, and when we come back, we're going to hear more about what George is doing in the community, some of the locations where you can actually attend the Speakers Academy, a wonderful experience. I highly recommend it. You're watching the Offbeat Business Show and Offbeat Business TV. We'll be back in just a moment.
The American business economy is positioned as it has never been before. Professional videography is a core element for attracting a higher level of engagement with the people group you need for significant impact. Now is your time to shine. My name is Bill Brock, owner of White Rock Films, and I invite you to a powerful opportunity in the marketplace, an opportunity to draw excited people to your events, an opportunity to showcase your ideas on infrastructure, an opportunity to become known as the industry authority and enjoy the associated benefits of a strong, influential brand. Video highlights, video teaches. Video puts a resistant market at ease, and video stirs the hearts and imaginations of your allies and strategic client base. White Rock Films offers full audio, video production for businesses ready to embrace the future, handling your project with professionalism, experience, and polish unheard of in the industry. My name is Bill Brock, and White Rock Films wants your business. See us online at whiterockfilms.com.
And we're back. Well, hello there. This is Susan Hamilton. I'm talking with George Hendley on the Offbeat Business Show and on Offbeat Business TV. This is an exciting time to learn how to represent your business and how to speak more effectively. This couldn't be more important because,
Amen.
Oh, wow, what have we done to ourselves, American business? We have ceased to have a voice.
You're right. You're right. Today's advent of social media has been good in many respects, but when you overdo anything, it can tend to become a weakness for you. And people's strong inclinations towards being very focused in the social media arena, digitizing everything, leaves out the human touch. There was a great book written years ago about high tech, high touch. And the high touch element, quite frankly, has been squashed and pushed down to almost nothingness. I was just speaking just a moment ago with a guy who I know understands that. And he said to me, basically, it's all about the face-to-face communication makes the sell come true. I tell people all the time at the Speakers Academy, Susan, speaking is more about selling than it is about speaking. In other words, influencing, persuading and really hearing out the needs of the client that you're potentially or already working with. And people today, again, want a personalized message. They want to feel like you're not just speaking in generalities, but you're speaking specifically to them. And it works.
And you're showing that it works.
Yeah.
You're showing you've had some wildly successful Speakers Academy locations. Can you tell our audience a little bit about what's going on here in Dallas?
Well, one of the things that we do is we try to make available things for anyone and everyone. We work with business leaders. Business leaders can be from the corporate world or they can be from the small business world. And I've worked with lots of different people. We work with them in group sessions open to the public. And we have right now 4 different locations, 3 that meet during the day, 1, a new one just recently opened, in the evening. Knowing that, again, some people can't get away for a daytime type session,
Excellent.
I've made that then open and available for them. So we have one in North Dallas, one in, actually all 3 of them are closer to the North Dallas area than any other place, but off of Campbell Road, off of the Central Expressway corridor, and then just off of 635 and Plano Road. Those are 3 locations, and they're all mentioned on our website as well as in our meetup group.
Excellent, excellent.
Yeah.
So you are just taking this place by storm,
Thank
helping
you.
people to understand how to speak more effectively. You know, there's not a more comfortable place to do that, I have to say. One of the first things that that you brought out in one of the earlier sessions that I had with you is, hey, this is a safe place. This is if you're gonna mess this up, you couldn't get a better forum, a better group.
Yeah. You know, we like to say, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. What happens at a Speakers Academy session stays at the Speakers Academy session. And that comes from my point of view as well. I put myself out there. I take risk. I try new things all the time. That's the safest place for me to try them, in front of people who are there to learn. And we all know learning is an exciting adventure. And people come in with a learning attitude. They know they cannot fail as long as they take another step and another step and another step forward as a bona fide learner.
And they do. They
do.
really do convey themselves well.
That's right.
They really do. And you've got a fine mix of business owners and management. So that's very helpful. And friends, I want you to know he takes it very seriously. You're not going to come away from this without having the tools that you need to even practice and study on your own. This is very detailed. This isn't just a networking group. This is one of the premier networking groups in the DFW area, and I strongly recommend it. And excited that you're doing that. So George, tell us a little bit about the art of the storytelling, which is your current series that you're in.
Yeah. Well, what we all know is this. Facts tell, stories sell. And oftentimes I relate that insight or that awareness to the movie business. Every movie that you go to in one way, shape, or form or another is a story being retold on the silver screen. The better the story, the better the retelling, the higher the gross sales. When you've got a story that is exceptionally well told, you've got a movie that is selling as a box office hit, and the mega millions begin to roll in. It's all about capturing people's minds because, Susan, your life is a story. Chapter after chapter after chapter. And some of those chapters may be heart-rending and gut-wrenching, and other chapters are just joyful and full of glee. I remember seeing pictures on your Facebook page showing your grandchildren, and the way you expressed that and the pictures of those grandkids,
they're awesome.
Again, that's a moment of joy. And all of our life is built around story. When you think back of how do we help our young children prepare their minds for sleep, we typically read what kind of book to them? A storybook. And so that's what we're geared towards. We are wired to receive stories. We are wired to tell stories. And the better we tell them and the more engaging we tell them for our audience, the more people go, that was good. You got another one? 1001 Arabian Nights was all about a woman who kept herself alive by telling the king night after night after night another story. She entertained him, she enthralled him, and thus he said, "You're worth keeping."
Hear that? There's something to that.
That's
no
exactly
doubt
the
about
case.
it. Because especially the generational issues that we're having in our families and in our communities and in our workspaces today. Don't you think that a lot of the storytelling has really disappeared? We've kind of forgotten in our micro moments, in our hyper-local thinking, how do we actually tell a story?
Yeah. I point people oftentimes to one of the classic series of books that's still viable and out in the marketplace today. It's called Chicken Soup for the Soul. And Mark Victor Hansen and Jack Canfield have done an amazing job of categorizing people's lives and their livelihood as in, Chicken Soup for the Soul for nurses, Chicken Soup for the Soul for cameramen, Chicken Soup for the Soul for producers. They have everything imaginable under the Chicken Soup for the Soul. And every one of those books is an anthology of stories. Story after story after story, and they're memorable. I just finished this morning a phenomenal book, and it's all about the stories of people who had miracles happening in their life.
Love that.
I was like, I was in tears a couple of times just reading these stories. It captivated my mind, it built my believing, it gave me greater hope for myself and people that I like to interact with, because I'm like, these are real people. And looking at their lives and their life stories, you just go, wow, that can happen to me too.
Sure enough.
And it does.
That's really huge, because if we lose that ability, it only takes one generation to lose a nation. We are dangerously close if we cannot convey stories. And when they hear those stories, they in turn learn how to tell them. It is so important to expose our kids, to expose our workplace environment to telling these stories, to really preserve the methodology of doing so.
Yeah, and there's a neat little key in the light of telling stories. And I'm learning more about this all the time. I don't say I've got it all. I say I'm a learner, and I'm trying to, as quickly as I learn something, begin to share it. It's not so much telling so much a story about me and about my success, but it's me telling a story where I can say, let me tell you a story about Susan Hamilton and what she did and how she transformed her life by way of doing this, this, and this. And then you make your client or whoever it is that you're working with, they become the star. And you're just, shall we say, a sage or a guide on the side. And then that's putting this other person front and center. And that's the same thing Canfield and Hansen did. They didn't tell their story repetitiously. They allowed these other people to tell the stories that they lived, that they had experienced firsthand. And wow, are those stories amazing.
Yes, they are, and that's exactly the approach Offbeat Business Media takes to absolutely everything that we do. We know that when the stories are out there, when the actual conversations, when we're conveying the authentic voice of American business, that's engaging, that helps them see how the relatable factor, helps them see what they might share in their very own community, and builds everyone up for success.
Yes.
You're absolutely right. It's very, very important to step into this space right now. George, how do people reach you?
Well, they can reach me via my website, www.thespeakersacademy.com, or george@thespeakersacademy.com, or here's my number, 972-234-4377, 972-234-4377. And I answer my phone.
Yes, you do.
I do.
Yes, you do. And you've got a vibrant social media profile as well. So make sure you check out George on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. And we're excited about that. Thank you for sharing this skill set and helping us understand how to better leverage this space.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure to interact with you, Susan. You are an other person focus, and because of that, your business is growing and prospering.
It's exciting.
Congratulations.
But thank you. But it's because of great instruction.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it, George. Thank you so much, friends, for tuning in to Offbeat Business TV and listening to Offbeat Business Radio, OBBM Radio Dallas. Hey, there's more to come. This is an exciting time to be in business, and we're showcasing the stories and the information that you need to hear. Until next time, this is Susan Hamilton. You've been watching Offbeat Business TV and OBBM Radio.
You've been listening to the Offbeat Business Show. Find our lineup, podcast, magazine, event calendar, and sponsor information even our membership directory, all available on the Offbeat Business app or at offbeatbusiness.com. Download the Offbeat Business app today.
Take this for me, but